Beautiful. Hi.
Welcome, Miracles Tribe members and Miracles Attraction community on Facebook. I'm Teresa McGallagher, and together with me here today are Carly Jed Hardy, my business partner, and Calico Hickey, our guest who is joining us all the way from Mexico. We're delighted that you could join us, and Carly will tell you about Calico.
Thank you, Teresa, and a warm welcome to everyone. Yes, our family all together here creating miracles and living from a place of miracles, focusing on them. We're delighted to have Calico Hickey as our guest today. Buenos dias. So nice that she's in Mexico, and we'll bring some of that with us today. And just as a bit of an introduction, I'd like to tell you that Calico is a devoted practitioner of the miracle of forgiveness as taught in A Course in Miracles. And thank you for emphasizing that. I really see it as a course in forgiveness as well. She has had a 35-year career as a chiropractic physician in private practice in Santa Fe, New Mexico. She worked with many that were looking for a better way to treat bodily conditions through alternative therapies. In 2009, Calico was diagnosed with metastatic stage 4 uterine cancer. During her stay in hospice, she started to let go of all of her ideas about healing the body. She began to apply the principles of the Course in Miracles in her day-to-day thinking. And she began to see, with a capital S, where she was not loving her thoughts, accepting the atonement, and working with her projections. She began to see those differently. After graduating from hospice, she spent some valuable time in the Living in Miracles community, honing her new loving skills of seeing everything projection and forgiving herself for those projections. She did a series that's available on YouTube called Beyond the Body. And now she's currently living in a spiritual community in Mexico. So thank you so much. We'd love to hear more from you, especially, yes, someone who's been diagnosed with cancer and is working on thoughts to heal.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm just very grateful to be here. And I love the Miracles Tribe. I mean, it really is a joining of mighty companions that's happening right now. And I am grateful to be a part of it in one-minded devotion of seeking the peace of God. And so the beginning, before and after, I just need to say, I was not an easy sell for A Course in Miracles. In fact, I remember when they first published it, it was in 3 books, hardback books. And I used those books as a doorstop for most of my career until I finally started looking at it. And it was a very intimidating text for me. And so it was easier to stay very superficial with it. And I set up many book studies in Santa Fe. And really, until I made the decision to live A Course in Miracles, I was just studying A Course in Miracles. And I like to say, I'd go to my, every day I'd go to a meeting and we'd read the most beautiful things out of the book. And then I'd close the book and I'd go back to the office and, get so annoyed with an insurance company or something and, pull phones out of the wall, whatever, of just feeling unfairly treated in so many ways of my life. So I didn't just open it with open arms and it landed. There was quite a process to it. And I must say, right before the diagnosis of cancer, there was I went through a foreclosure and all my life savings, my retirement account was in the property. So when that property was I say it was an illegal foreclosure. However, it was my projection to get me to move in a completely different direction. And it was not easy. None of the projections that I dealt with were easy. But they all needed to be looked at with Christ, with my Christ mind. I just finished a silent retreat for 12 days at the first of the year. And one of the things I was gifted during that retreat was I had this mystical experience, and it really was an above the battleground experience. Up until the time of the retreat, I was calling my life shock and awe. When there was a time when those two words came together, and I thought, wow, that really is kind of the way my life has looked. And during this retreat, I got another name for my life, and that was train wreck. It was just, there were so many things going on that I was not happy with. I fought the government. Human rights. I mean, it was just, my mind was always focused on relieving suffering. And that includes my decision to be a chiropractor. It was, I took on a profession to relieve suffering, but I was looking at it from the outside in form. And what I got was, particularly after I moved to Mexico and became part of a very devoted spiritual community, no one's suffering unless I say they are. No one can suffer unless I see it. And so there was a lot of turning around that had to happen. And I just want to say, because yes, my script included cancer. And the people that I work with, because I sometimes work with people that have what I call icky diagnoses, it's best not to start this process on your body. So if you have a grievance about some health condition, that's probably not the simplest way to start. So I had this life I call train wreck, and there were many things in that life that I had to forgive. And I remember distinctly starting with traffic. I thought, okay, I can't deal with cancer. I can't deal with foreclosure. I can't deal with loss of all your money, but let's go deal with traffic. And so I remember in Santa Fe, I drove, we didn't have that much traffic in Santa Fe, but I'd go on rush hour on Cerrillos Road. It was the only place I could find traffic. And initially I would be driving in this traffic, and I just noticed, I never said anything, but I noticed my thoughts, and they were all along this line. Oh, don't cut in front of me. Oh no, the light just turned. Oh, I'm running late. Oh my God, should I call someone? It was like there were thousands of these thoughts going on. And I don't know who was driving the car, because I was just deep engaged in all these thoughts of how to get from point A to point B. And they were all irrelevant. In fact, it was so pointed. Holy Spirit, I drove with Holy Spirit, and everything was shown to me that every time I made stated an opinion about someone else's driving, it was me killing them off. Basically saying, no, you're not right, I am. And I've shortened this to, many people may not like this, but it gets my attention. I shortened this to, I'm kicking baby Jesus again. So anytime I'm kicking baby Jesus, I'm judging something in my thoughts, because everybody is baby Jesus. Every situation is baby Jesus. And I personally can't abide by any kind of child abuse. So it's kind of like, gets my attention when I say, do you really want to kick baby Jesus again? It's like, okay, I'll sit quietly and I'll go in prayer and sort this out. And at one point with driving in traffic, I really got clear that no one was really driving the car. It was just all these thoughts of how you were not driving your car well. And so at one point, Jesus said, flip the rear view mirror up, because what I noticed was I was staring more into the rear view mirror than I was looking outside the front windshield. And I thought, well, that's interesting. But then I sat with it and Holy Spirit just guided me through this process. Where do accidents occur for you? From behind. So I'm going to focus my attention on the rear view mirror, seeing what's going on behind me that I have absolutely no control over, but I'm going to protect myself from anything that they may do to me. And it was just a metaphor on my life. It's like, who's driving this movie production? I am. So it's like I had to really sit down and I started, and this is the way I work with most of the people I work with. I say, start a grievance journal. Every day you fill in your grievance journal, whatever I hate Brussels sprouts, or the next door neighbor is making me crazy, or my son, I want to kill him, or whatever it is, just write it down with no blame, no judgment, just to see what you're thinking. Because once you see what you're thinking, then you have a chance to do something about it. And quite frankly, I lived pretty much 50 years of my life without any of this information of how to think. I learned how to think from my parents, and they were first generation immigrants. They were terrified. They were just in total survival mode. So that's how I learned to think. And I mean, I love my father and I've healed so much with him, but I remember his whole motive was get them before they get you, And it's like, and you can see how a world of people learning how to think, get them before they get you, how a world could look somewhat like what we've got right now. And it's like, and so really it's about changing the way we think. And so with hospice and the cancer, I just knew I needed I needed hardcore, help. And so I went into, David Hofmeister had a La Casa de Milagros here in Chapala, Mexico. And I signed on. I just signed on and said, I can't do this myself. I don't know what I'm doing. Help me. And it was the hardest 5 years I've ever spent, because quite frankly, every single thought in a group that's devoted to A Course in Miracles, like David's was, there's got to be a turnaround. You've got to see where you're creating it from. And all thoughts that I call them hooking thoughts, the thought of being done wrong. Why is that music so loud next door that's annoying me? It's like, well, I'm projecting it. What am I trying to get my attention with? And there's it's online, it's free, The Instrument for Peace. It's the same work really that Byron Katie does, the work. And it takes you through a process of, I'm feeling angry. I blame so-and-so. And then you tell your whole story. And at some point, you're asked, now, are you willing to give up this whole story that you've created in your mind? That traffic will never make me happy. Are you willing to give that story up in order to receive the peace of God? And you can't have both. You cannot have the peace of God and your story. They can't coexist. Ego is controlling one, your Christ mind is controlling the other. So it's kind of like, once you really get, the only thing you want is the peace of God, the speed up can happen. Then all those grievances that you have towards another can rapidly be worked through without you holding on to them. Because, I mean, I must say, the peace of God is the best drug I have ever found. And I am unwilling to live without it in my life at this point. I wake up happy, I wake up in peace, and then I have thoughts sometimes come in that I quickly clear out of the way so I can come back to this happy state that A Course in Miracles promises us. But I didn't trust anybody. And so why would I trust a guy named Jesus that wrote a book called A Course in Miracles? I had to really work with some trust issues and, people telling me to do something and me just following because it's guidance. And I fought this a lot because I didn't trust your hearing guidance, but I couldn't certainly hear anything. So it was kind of like being humble enough to just allow another to guide me. And, this can play out in many different ways, but it really was trusting my mighty companions that may be just a tad saner than I was when I was in my hard states. And it's all, if anyone has even a hint that they want to try something different and they're really looking to love rather than to fear things, A Course in Miracles is the answer, but it really is not a book just to read. It's a book to really be with. And that's why we were given the lessons. I know the lessons are a big part of this for you guys. And, there's 365 lessons, one a day. That's all that's being asked of us. Now, again, when I started, I'd get one or two lessons. Then I'd forget about it for a week. I go, oh yeah, right, let's go back to the lessons. I wasn't consistent in my desire for the peace of God. I still had many desires of the world. And, I'm in a state of just divine providence at this point. There is no bank account. There is no family. There are no animals. I'm really living a very monk-like devoted life, but I've never been happier. I've never been more at peace. I go out into the community with a huge smile on my face every day. And it's like, that just wasn't the way my life looked prior to getting real serious with, okay, Jesus, you're driving the bus. They're my projections and you can help me see them all differently. At this point, I see the cancer and the foreclosure and the money disappearing as some of the best things that have ever happened to me, because I was on the path of, I've got this, God. I've got enough to handle. I've got enough to take care of myself. I'm in charge on this one. I'm not needing you. When in fact, no, with every decision I make, it needs to be one of divine guidance. And I have a hard Irish head, and I was in charge my whole life. I took care of myself. I handled things, and I was very good at handling things. It was an Olympic sport for me to handle, 15 things at one time. And I took pride in that, when in fact it was keeping me from just getting quiet. Now I first thing in the morning for at least an hour, I'm in silence. I don't even want to call it meditation, although many would. It really is just getting quiet. And here in Mexico, I go outside and I just listen to the birds for an hour. And and then some things drop in and I know they're Holy Spirit. And that's how I set the day up. It's like, Holy Spirit, you decide for me. Because my best effort got me into a lot of trouble. So yeah, I'm basically, my life is devotion. I'm so completely happy with it. And it just, just to give a sample, because this was a recent healing for me. My brother, who I adore, we've had communication issues. Um, you know, he was #1 in the Vietnam lottery back in the 60s, and I was out fighting against the Vietnam War. So we had it, we really didn't have a real firm foundation for communication, and it's existed most of our lives together. But I get who he is just a love muffin. He adopted 5 kids from overseas. And he's just, he's like me. He was raised with, he wanted to make a better world. The problem is he hasn't dealt with his own thinking, and it was not for me to make him wrong for that. But I kept wanting to see, well, okay, if it's true that when I change my mind, the projection will change. And this projection hasn't changed. He hasn't wanted to talk to me. So I went into deep prayer for a couple of days. It was actually during the retreat with it. And when I got back from the retreat, in one day, my 5 nieces and nephews called me all within one day. And they all had the same complaint: I hate my father. And it was just, I really saw my role was to just tell them, it's like, okay, maybe he didn't do things the way you wanted him to, but you can't say he doesn't love you, because I know that's not true. And so for each one of them, for, in one day, 5 conversations, I loved my brother completely. And, whether he'll see it ever or not, his kids came to me with their grievance against him. And that was the one thing I wouldn't hear. I couldn't be with them on. And so each one of them, I helped them see their dad differently. And so it's like, that's how this Course in Miracles works. What's going to happen with that? I have no idea. I just know that was my role in it, because I know how much I deeply love my brother and that he deeply loves. He just was raised in the same family I was. And, he's trying to kill people off before they kill him off as well. And it's just kind of like, and that will just, I remember there's all these, I'm not a huge spiritual person, but I love, since the Course in Miracles, I love many of the Gospels. And I'm not sure why I even mentioned this, other than there's nothing to do. And there's a Gospel of Thomas. It's the shortest gospel of all the Gospels. And it's be passers-by. And, it's like, I wanted to do something to see a correction in this projection called my brother, when in fact, all it was be a passerby with love. Love him, knowing he's perfect, exactly as he is, and as I see him that he isn't. And it's like, and it's part of my training now, it's like just to see everyone as an awakened being, and just not even have those thoughts of, wow, they really need to do this lesson, or, oh my God, they're in a world of shit. Those are, again, my ego thoughts, making something of my projections smaller and less powerful than they are. And so now it's I see it as my role in extending is to just see everyone as the Christ. And I know I've heard this thousands of times, but it landed differently this time. It's like, oh, I can keep all of my manipulations out of this. It's for me just to be the presence of love in any relationship, particularly when they don't look loving. And that's, go for it. There were so many lessons living in community, particularly under David's guidance, particularly because he just would not put up with not owning your projections. And so there was a woman at one point. I had been running this one program by myself for about a year, and, I had it under control. It was working good. And then a young woman came into the community, young, 26. And she was given my project. It was given to her to lead. And then I would do whatever she felt needed to be done. Whoa, did I have stuff come up? It was like, and both of us, I mean, she had her coming from her youth, and she had fear of what she was doing. Then I had from my old age going, I know what to do here. And we had to really, every day we met, and every day we would, no private thoughts. There were only 2 rules living in community: no private thoughts and no people pleasing. And I remember once we sat on my bed together, and I said, "You got to touch me, sit real close, let's hold hands." And I said, "I'm having so much anger right now, and I'm making you completely wrong." And I remember saying this to her, and we laugh about it now, both of us do. I said, "I would rather cut my leg off with a butter knife than join with you." And I meant it. But I knew that the only way through this was to join with her and talk it all out. And we spent months. I mean, it was months. And now, oh my God, I feel like I have such a mighty companion in her. There's nothing I couldn't express to her that she wouldn't be a support system for me. But that's not the way it looked initially. I made her every which way wrong. And and it's not just her. I've done this my whole life. I got skilled at pushing people away. That's how I dealt with those that didn't agree with me. Well, fine, you're dead to me now. I just won't have anything to do with you. And that's not what the Course is asking us. Jesus is actually saying, go towards that person, join with that person. Figure out where you're not loving, because that's where you're not loving yourself. And it was like, and I knew I wasn't loving myself. Shit, I dreamed up stage 4 metastatic cancer. That's not much love. But I couldn't start there. And as a result, I have worked, I mean, physically, I'm fine. I have no pain. I'm fine. But I don't get into it. I don't go there much. I don't go to doctors because the best they could offer me was to tell me how it was going to go. And in their world, it wasn't going to go well. So I thought, well, they're not the mighty companions I need. Agreement is where ego will just thrive, just completely thrive. And I wasn't looking for agreement. I was looking for, how do I heal my mind? And that's why I stuck with Mighties, and I continue to stick with Mighties. And I'm in a perfect place for it because there are a lot of people here doing just this thing. And we hold each other's hands through these really tough parts where we see ourselves as completely being done to. And I used to call it felt like having to take a hit. So a lot of these times when I felt like I was being unfairly treated, there was this physical pain of feeling like I was being abused by the situation. And to unravel that and see the belief that was at the core of that kept that feeling of being unfairly treated alive. Once I saw the belief, then it just disappeared. And so many beliefs have disappeared. I mean, I don't believe in death at this point. I don't even believe in cancer, even though I would never say my body's clear of cancer, because it doesn't even matter at this point. I'm happy, and I'm, extending love, and I'm doing what Jesus talked about. I mean, he he was pretty clear, as they were hauling him up the mount, or as he was hauling the cross up the mount, he wasn't saying, those damn Romans, look what they're doing. This is so not right. This is unfair. There's nothing about this that no, he forgave them. And that's really what A Course in Miracles is saying. Forgive it all. And yes, can it take a heartbeat? Absolutely. Did it take me a heartbeat? Absolutely not. I had to really sit with these ideas, because my mind was bent, excuse me, I was hyper vigilant for error. My home way modus operandi was to look for error and to correct it. Any doctor trained anywhere on the planet is trained in cause and effect. And I had to let go of all cause and effect. There is no cause except love. And if I'm seeing you through my eyes of love, you may have a chance to see yourself that way.
Wow, thank you, Calico. That's so fascinating. I wish we could keep going for another hour, but we need to wind up here, and maybe we can have you back another time. But we've really enjoyed what you have to share with us, and so happy to hear that you're doing so well now, and you're so happy in the situation where you are. Really a blessing to us that you were able to join with us today.
Thank you so much. I love you both. Oh.
Bye-bye.